everybody. Welcome to another episode of Modern Life. Today we got a little video game podcast for you. We're going to be talking about something that came out recently, which I think is healthy for us. It's Man of Medan by Supermassive Games.
Oh, I've been saying Medan.
Oh, it's Maiden.
Maiden?
Medan. Am I crazy? It's Maiden, right?
I would think it would be Maiden.
I think it's Maiden. Medan.
I looked it up. It's Hebrew. It means strive or judgment.
You think it's Medan?
I don't know anything anymore.
Okay. Should have probably looked this up.
No.
Anyways, that's Tabby, who's going to be joining me today. We also have Stacy here, who played. Well, you sort of played. You didn't have the controller, but you had you made decisions, and then I pressed the buttons for you.
Yep, don't like the controller.
Anyways, that's what we're talking about. Supermassive Games, Man of Medan, and then I do want to let you guys know we have a brand new website that we labored over for multiple hours. We have all the podcasts categorized by if it's a video game or movie or TV show, etc. Beautiful new website. What's the link, Tubby? ModernLifePod. It's just modernlifepodcast.com, right? Yeah, easy. ModernLifePodcast.com. And of course, you can always find us on Twitter and Instagram at ModernLifePod. So let's get going. As always, we're going to start with little modern thoughts. What's on our mind today, people?
Okay, so I found an article called Millennials in Ghana Are Working Hard to Make Farming Sexy.
Whoa.
It's on the independent.co.uk website.
Okay.
And it's about these millennial farmers that are calling themselves agripreneurs. Because in Ghana and other countries, there's still the stigma of if you're a farmer, you're poor and you're basically just farming to feed yourself. It's not like a big business. Like if you think of farming in the US, for example, and you have these like massive crop yields. Mm-hmm. And what's exciting about that is that these millennial farmers have a college education and they're expected to work in offices because that's, good thing to do for your family. And especially if you have an education, have invested so much money in it, but then they're using that knowledge to apply it to farming and revolutionize farming. Because they're dealing with a lot of things like undeveloped distribution networks and poor roads, and they're using technology and apps and new machinery and everything they learned in school to apply that to farming. Because Ghana actually imports a lot of food, even though they have a lot of land available to farm. Mm-hmm. So the government also just started new incentive programs for people to start farming because Ghana's farming population is aging as well. Mm-hmm. And so they want to get new kids into it. And yeah, there's all kinds of, the article was going through all kinds of cool things like new breeding techniques and different kinds of students from different backgrounds. There was one kid who was a psychology major, and she is not using any pesticides in her farming because she doesn't do monocropping. So she doesn't just do one crop at a time, which really depletes your soil.
Sure.
And she will...
No diversity.
Exactly. Yeah. Diversify her crop yields. And I just needed some good and happy news. And I thought this was really interesting that these young kids in Ghana are out there and assessing climate change and what that does to crops and how to adapt and how to kind of get back down to earth. So
it's so weird to hear about that because you still think of Ghana like as this. You just forget that technology has like spread into Africa like it hadn't 20 years ago. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like here in major cities in most countries, but I think what the article is saying, you're missing a lot of networks like coverage, internet coverage and things like that will help, and establishing that will help these farmers to set everything up.
Right.
So,
it's good to hear that there's stuff happening.
But we're facing that in the US as well. Also, I was just reading something similar about the Midwest and how they're trying to expand internet coverage because there's vast,
Right.
places where it's hard to get coverage, and how that disrupts your communication with other farmers and so on. So,
I know, I was just reading the other day about how just with the help of technology spreading into all these third world countries, just because it's so much cheaper and more readily available, like how extreme poverty in the last, not so extreme poverty being just obviously the worst of the worst, how that in the last 20 years has been like cut in half.
Huh.
Obviously there's still, so then you move like into just regular poverty, but just how extreme poverty, if you look at the statistics, it's just getting wiped out as all these third world countries are finally starting to catch up to the first world countries. And I think they might have mentioned Ghana in the article, how Ghana now, it was Ghana or some other African country where they're basically the same as like Great Britain was in the 1960s. And obviously it's not going to take them another 50 years to then catch up to us. It's just exponentially they're like catching up to the first world countries.
Mm-hmm. And also what a credit to those countries and former colonies who have been abused and exploited by us, and
Right.
for them to do this on their own too. And just important to acknowledge responsibility for places like Britain doing that too.
There's hope.
Yeah.
Stacey, got anything?
My modern thought has to do with an article I read on CNN where it talks about which drink is best for hydration. And it talks about how water isn't it.
Gatorade.
Yeah. Well,
Zero.
I started the article with like immediately being frustrated and actually passed by it twice, and then went back and read it because I was like, okay, I want to see because I get really frustrated with articles that try and encourage like the drinking of sodas or like Gatorades and things like that because they've got so much sugar, and sugar is really, really, really bad for your system. It's probably one of the most addictive substances in our diet. So I get super frustrated when these articles come up because a lot of them are funded by companies that are basically getting their funding from the sugar companies and from the cereal companies and from these companies that are like want people to read these articles. And this one talks about how great milk is to drink, which again, super frustrating because again, milk is not something your body processes very well. And because of all the hormones that are put into it are like really hard on your body to digest it. Yes, I believe that there's a point in drinking, like having some kind of dairy in your body, but that's it based on an individual purpose, basically. Anyway, the point is that I just get really frustrated with these articles because they just 1 minute tell you one thing and then the next minute tell you something completely different. And I wish that the mainstream would do more research on their articles before they just pump out anything that's just based on a study, because these studies, you have to look at the source of where you're getting the study from or like where the funding is coming from. And I feel like it's really, it's such, I don't know, it makes me so angry because it's one of the reasons why people get so frustrated with nutrition and health and everything, because there's just so many conflicting ideas out there. And a lot of it has to do with the media just trying to pump out so many articles, one after another, that they don't really do the research on where the article, like where the studies come from, what they're funded with. And it's just, it confuses people. And I just, again, point of this article was that water isn't as hydrating, which is bullshit, because water is like one of the number one things you need for your body. And they talk about how like certain proteins will like make it so you don't urinate and it'll keep your body hydrated for longer. And yes, that's true to an extent, but your body's supposed to get rid of those toxins, which is why your body needs water to get rid of them. Mm-hmm. And they need that constant lubrication because it needs it to go like throughout your body for joints and things like that. And so when you read an article like this, it almost sounds like, hey, drink 5 glasses of milk a day. And it's like, well, no, you really shouldn't drink 5 glasses of milk a day. You need to continue to drink the water. And I don't know. It gets me frustrated.
Did it say where the data was from?
Yeah. What's it called? The one that I always complain about.
The FDA?
Yeah. Sorry.
Interesting.
It makes sense. Milk and dairy producers are getting all the subsidies.
That and the fact that they, they get their money from these companies that they
drink
want
your
them
body weight in milk ounces every day.
It's just really frustrating that these articles even get published. But yeah, so that's my modern thought.
Also, it's so Eurocentric.
Yeah.
There's so many other cultures who don't have a history of consuming dairy or dairy farming who shouldn't be drinking that much milk. Which I'm sure the article doesn't address in any way, right? It just tells you to drink milk.
Well, yeah, I mean, it goes through. It was actually done better than some because.
Did the article say you should only drink milk?
No. It just talks about each thing, and it just says that like it talks about each product, and it highlights milk as a positive to drink, versus like coffee where it kind of negates it and like.
Does it say how much you should be drinking in a day?
No. That's my point. It just negates it. And then it like even talks about alcohol, and it's like, well, alcohol is not as good to drink as beer, but beer is okay. Like it just, it does. I don't know. The article is just very weirdly written, but
I've heard the opposite on that. I heard the reason you start peeing so much when you drink beer is beer. If you're looking at a scale of alcohols, you have vodka, right? Which is just distilled to complete purity.
Yeah.
It's 100% alcohol, and then you water it down, and that's vodka. It's like there's nothing else in there. But then beer is it's very just unfiltered and kind of raw because it's just this fermented, yeasty
they're
thing.
saying that
and so your body that's why you start peeing so much, because your body's just trying to like get all this stuff out of your system.
Yeah, their point for the whole article for the beer versus alcohol thing is that alcohol acts as a diuretic, so it causes you to urinate more. And beer, there's more to it, so there's like, it's
interesting.
It can work both ways. They're both a diuretic. I mean, they're both going to make you pee. It's the alcohol aspect of the drink that works as a diuretic. Right. So that was my modern thought.
Personally, I pee more when I drink beer. I just want everyone out there to know that.
Thank you for sharing. It might be the fact that the beers are drinking in a bigger consumption.
Maybe. It's also, more liquid.
Yeah.
My thought is also a public service announcement. As you are both aware, I took the dishwasher apart the other morning.
What? I wasn't aware of that.
Oh, you
weren't?
It like broke on us.
So I showed you the picture. Remember the thing I cleaned in the sink? I was like, "This is what." No, I did. I showed it to you. I think it's because you just had woken up. Anyways, the dishwasher making weird noise. So I took like the whole thing apart as far as you can, basically, without getting into the motor. And there's this filter before you get that the water passes through, to catch everything before it then goes into the little motor that switches the water around, so it doesn't break anything. And it was maybe the most disgusting thing I've ever cleaned. This dishwasher is like 5 years old. There's 2 kids in this house.
Maybe like 8 years old.
8 years. Probably never been cleaned. There was like metal, like from paintbrushes that kids use. Like somehow the metal came off of that was stuck in there. Just hair and gunk. And I'm like, well, yeah, no. And then I cleaned that whole thing out, and now it's working again. But as I'm taking the dishwasher apart, like all these parts that I'm pulling off to get into the engine, there's just so much mold on everything, which makes sense because it's just water, and like not everything's going to be able to dry in these little crevices. But your dishwasher is disgusting, and you should probably clean it. And that's my public service modern thought announcement this week.
I wonder if cleaning it like once a week, like with putting some like vinegar in it, would help clean it on a more regular basis. I mean, I know they have,
but there's still going to be mold because there's areas where it's just not going to dry properly, and then mold's going to grow. Just one of the most disgusting things I've ever cleaned.
Thanks for doing that.
Oh my God. But it just makes you like, oh my God, like this whole time, probably every dishwasher I've ever used in my life, like you think it's clean, but it's just like moldy water getting splashed around. So gross. So gross.
And you're ingesting that every time you eat or drink off the cups.
It's good for your immune system.
Not really.
All right, let's talk about a little video game action. Man of Medan came out, I think it was August it came out. And the only reason I found out about it, I was just looking through the PlayStation store looking for new games, and I'm like, I think Tubby and I both looked at the trailer. I'm like, oh, this looks really similar to Until Dawn, and then 2 seconds later it was from the creators of Until Dawn. I'm like, oh, okay. Because they have Supermassive Games has a pretty specific look to it. Tabby and I both really like that game. I think you like that game.
Yeah, I have a cosplay for it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so we downloaded it immediately, started playing it, and it's not that big of a game. We're like, let's do a podcast on it. I know. Do you want to summarize the game before we get into it?
Yes, so there's a bunch of
it's going to be spoiler alerts.
People in their early 20s, they're on a boat. They want to go treasure diving illegally. but then they get captured by pirates, God knows why, and then they end up on this abandoned ship from World War II.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of get out of there.
Yeah.
Get back home.
Gotta escape
But I mean,
the
it
pirates.
starts with the story behind the pirate ship too, though, a little bit. No,
Yeah.
Pirates, I don't know that we know that much
No,
about.
no.
not the pirates. I mean,
World
the
War
ghost
II
ship. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, the pirates just think there's gold on the ship. That's why.
I don't
Well,
know. They found that clue on the ship that I'm on, so I don't know why were they just annoyed at
No,
Conrad?
I think they were just mad at the brother
No.
for being such a.
Yeah, he's like, screw that guy. And then they found some note that said, like, gold on it. And they're like, oh, treasure.
They're French, though. Treasure! Oui, oui.
God, where to start with this game? I want to like this game, and I do like this game. We both played it a couple times through, but it's so incredibly flawed that I don't know. I feel like there's a better game in there, and it's just unfortunately not there. The game's really buggy. I think the writing for the characters is really bizarre at times, and I don't know, those two things together kind of stop it from being like another Until Dawn.
Because it's interesting, because in Until Dawn, you have multiple different settings. You have the hospital, you have the mines, you have
true.
the outside, you have
It's a big game.
the forest, whatever. This you're just on the ocean and on a ship. And I actually, as an insular setting, I think that can work really well. Until Dawn, nothing makes sense in that game either. But
Yeah, it doesn't need to.
the thing is, with that game, I cared about the characters. And I think
Exactly.
this game is missing a lot of character writing. Like, I cared about, are these two characters going to get together? Or, you know.
Yeah, there's really none of that. And I looked it up. It's a different director for the game, but the two main writers are the same as from Until Dawn. So but I don't know, do they write out the dialogue? Do they maybe just write the story out and then a lot of the dialogue is like ad-libbed? I don't know, because it was such a stark contrast from Until Dawn to where so the whole game, if you're not kind of familiar with them, is you have to make these series of choices, and I guess ultimately you're trying to make all the characters survive the game, but any of the characters can die at any time if you don't press the right button or you make a bad choice, something like that. So there's a million different versions and endings of the game, it's what makes them kind of very replayable, because you're trying to, okay, what happens if I make this decision, or what happens if I do this? So that's what keeps it interesting. But for example, so there's two brothers are part of the characters, and like if one of them dies, the other brother doesn't seem, there's just no reaction at all.
There's no reaction to anything in the game. There's no reaction to if they see a dead body. There's no emotional reaction to if they see, like, if they get caught, like if someone dies. Like, it's just, there's not an emotional tie-in with the characters. And coming from somebody who's like mostly just watching the game, not even really playing, it was hard. Like, I could walk away at any moment and not be upset.
Right.
Which the other game that I've played, like watched you guys play, was the
medieval one.
The medieval one, and I was
also French
entranced
people.
in that game.
We like French people.
Yes, I was like entranced in that game. Like, I didn't want to walk away. I watched that game for like 5 hours at a time.
Yeah.
This one, on the other hand, it was like I watched, but I didn't, like, I would get up. I had no problem like walking away and not seeing what happened.
That's one of my first notes, is when you get the backstory, and the tutorial for the game is basically these two soldiers during World War II. You're going back onto the ship and you wake up and you find out that everybody's dead. And my first note is soldiers have zero emotional response to corpses of friends. And I think you get one line of this. I didn't like the acting very much of this guy. He just goes, "Oh, Buckley, poor fucker." That's your reaction. You're like waking up in your base and everybody around you is dead. And I think that's why I was never scared in this game either, because Until Dawn I was constantly terrified. But if my characters aren't showing that they're scared, why should I be scared? That's
my exact point. I was going to say that exact same thing. It's like, how am I going to be scared if the characters aren't scared? Like, that makes no sense. And yeah, the first corpse you see is this World War II guy, army guy. He wakes up on the ship after being in the hospital section of the ship because he got knocked out by one of the lieutenants or something. And like the doctor is just in the closet, just a dead corpse, and there's just no reaction at all. It's like, oh, okay. Like just walking around the ship. And then the other thing that really stood out to me, there's, if you find it, I think it's with the bigger brother. There's one section I remember you walk in and it's this really creepy shot, and it was this guy he was in the middle of being like worked on, like some surgery, and he has this mask on. It's just like this really creepy kind of shot. And then as you walk around to the room more, the doctor that was doing the surgery, he's just in the corner of the room. It's just his like corpse skeleton, and it's just super creepy looking. I'm like, oh, this is a scary looking room. And then all the character in the game says, he goes, oh man, you can't unsee that, and like just keeps walking. I'm like, this is terrifying.
Not good.
But I don't know if the actors, I don't even blame it on the actors because they're just getting fed these shitty lines to say. It's these characters with like no depth, and you don't care about them, and it's just these complete archetypes. Yeah, there's just no depth to the characters. Just these stereotypes, like these horror movie stereotypes.
I also feel like there was like no tie-ins too. Like you had that original story, and then there was like nothing to like bring you back to those characters, or to just, it was like just, this is the story, and then there's like nothing. It's like there's no like, there was at one point, one of the scenes, there's like this woman dressed up, but it looks like a man, and I'm not like really sure if it was a man. Did you guys, you saw this with me?
A woman dressed up as a man.
It was like a nurse, and she was chasing Conrad, I think.
Oh, just the sexy girl.
Yeah,
that was then.
But she like looked
not dressed
like,
up as a man.
Well, I wasn't sure because when she got older, she had like chin hair.
You never seen old ladies with little chin hair?
No. But I didn't understand where that came from, or like.
I have a note about that too, because you have these. And there's these illusions, right? You're hallucinating on the ship because
no, you just spoiled it for everybody.
Because the gold is this bioweapon. And with some people,
it's not real gold.
With some people, they were maybe hallucinating about something from earlier. But yeah, the thing with Conrad and the like 40s pinup girl, why wouldn't he be thinking about her? Well, if there was maybe like a picture in his bunk earlier in the game, and you were like, oh, that's why he's seeing
There's
that.
a picture in the game, but you see it with a different character. You don't even see it with Conrad.
That's what I'm saying.
So
like,
I don't know where that comes from.
I just feel like if they maybe tied in some of the like allusions to like the characters, or even to the backstory, so there was like something, but it just was, it felt very all over the place and like not connected. Even with the decisions that you make, like even when you make a decision, it was like, I didn't feel like it really impacted the game all the way.
Well, and again, it's weird because it's the same writers from the other game that we really like, but they're just, it seems like a guy in his 50s was like, this is how people in their 20s talk. It was like, chill, bro. Like, yeah. Like, and I don't even care that all these characters are stereotypes, because in Until Dawn, they're all stereotypes. And that's kind of, I get that for certain genres of horror, like that's also kind of the fun of it. If it's like this slasher horror, these people are stereotypes, the dialogue's not that great. It's kind of part of the fun. So I don't mind that at all. But in Until Dawn, like I cared about the characters because there's all these storylines intertwined and your choices really matter. And I had none of that in this game, where I didn't feel like in Until Dawn, you make a choice and then you can look up, okay, how is this person's relationship with this other person going? You remember that?
You can do that in this one.
You can, but
you don't care.
It doesn't seem to matter at all. Like the choices you make don't. Because I just remember in Until Dawn, if you said one thing to one person, then later on, it would be like, oh, you said this thing to me, so I'm not going to do this thing you asked for. Like, there was always this conflict with the characters, and I played this game like twice. I saw you play it through, and there was never anything like that where it's like, well, you disrespected me earlier, so I'm not going to listen to you, and then that character goes off and does his own thing, and it just didn't seem to matter the choices.
Just at the end,
much.
the characters you end up with and the people who jump down in the hole is dependent on what you tell them. Like if you tell your brother go, or I was looking online and people had all different sorts of combination of characters, which I didn't get.
Interesting.
But what Stacy was saying earlier, the larger framework is this World War II story. But even the clues you're picking up, I didn't even want to pick them up anymore because it was just like pieces of paper and briefs that were the same and were telling you the same thing one after the other. There was nothing new to be learned. And then Stacy pointed out that everything takes place at the same time, just years later. It's like, what, June 18th, 19th, 20th?
That was like June 21st or something.
Yeah, it was June 21st.
Anyways, yeah.
And then I thought that would be like a big reveal, and nothing happened with that. So I don't even know. It
seems like that was an idea when they were making the game, and then nothing. It's like there was no follow-up.
Cut the game down or something. Like, I feel like there's parts missing because there's so many little like clues that I wanted to be important. I wanted it to matter, but it never felt like it did.
Well, I don't know if they just, because Halloween is coming up and it's a scary game, so I don't know if they just rushed it out there or if they just ran out of money. You know, video games can get really expensive, but the game, all that aside, the game is so buggy. And there's constantly in the middle of cutscenes, it'll just all of a sudden stop and there'll be a black load screen. And then the cutscene will continue and then you get another load screen. It's super choppy. It's not fluid. I didn't mind
it. It could be worse.
No, because that's also another reason it doesn't make it scary because it takes you out. It just takes you out of that scene. I don't remember that happening with Until Dawn that much where, okay, if here's a cutscene, like, here's the thing that's going to unfold. It doesn't constantly take you out of the game with these weird
you were afraid
screens.
of deer in Until Dawn.
Yeah.
You were like, the deer are going to get me. I'm like, no, the deer are not going to catch me.
Demon deers! And then, that was buggy. The constant load screens. And then there was I got this one weird ending that you got on like your second playthrough.
My third, I think.
It's towards the end of the game, and the main pirate, Frenchman, he opens where all this poisonous, Manchurian gold is. There's this door where that is being stored, and there's this constant leak coming out. And he opens that door, and all this water rushes out. Where first of all, okay, like where I don't understand what is that room where it's just a bunch of water. But regardless of that, when that happens, what's her name? Conrad's sister, like flies out of there like she's in this water tank. But 5 minutes earlier, I was doing something with her where she's with another character. But when she flies out of that water tank, the other character isn't even there. And I'm like, well, wasn't coherent at all with the choices I had made. And I'm like, how did she end up there? It's never explained.
It's like there was another scene that never made it into there. And then also that quick time event really frustrated me because I got smashed by the door and then you told me that you have to push the button, which had it was the icon was wrong. Mm-hmm. The icon was the one for where you just hit the button once and then you said, oh no, you have to push it repeatedly, which there was no way to know that at all.
Well, that's what's frustrating sometimes is that a character will die not because of your choices, but because you're supposed to, like in that scene you're talking about, you have to press X like 10 times in 2 seconds and it comes out of nowhere. And if you don't do it, your character dies. And it just diminishes the whole part of making choices if then at the end of the day, all you're dependent on is like your reflexes.
I feel like that's how all of the characters died, no?
That's
like,
how
it was
most of mine died,
that's what I mean by that's kind of what I was talking about when I said that none of the decisions that you made, I felt like it really impacted the characters because that's not how any of them died. They all died from like not pushing the button fast enough.
They go through all this length to make these different, like you can play by yourself, but then they have a setting called like movie night, which just seems like, hey, let's get the whole family together and play this game and make these choices. Like and we did most of the game like that for one run through. And I feel like that's really fun to kind of do it all together. But if you have a game mode like that, like not everyone in the family, like you, Stacy, like you're not even comfortable with the controller.
Yeah.
So then to put stuff in there where you need these super quick reflexes and hit these buttons, it seems diminishing to...
Well, just turn it off. You can turn it off.
Yeah, but I don't know. It still just seems diminishing to what you're trying to do, where it's just, hey, let's turn all the lights off. Let's all play this video game together, make these choices. It'll be really fun. But then all it comes down to in the end is, you have to hit X really fast. Oh, shit. Well, the character died. I don't know
that Until Dawn had that and it didn't bother me. I think what bothered me...
It did, but not every character died because of it.
Right.
And I also I'm just not a big fan of that mechanic in general. Like, you're in the middle of a cutscene and you're just into it. Okay, what's happening? And out of nowhere, this thing pops up where you don't just have to press the button once. It's like, oh, wait, oh, snap. I have to like hit it so fast.
No, but with
times.
that one specifically, the icon that was made on the screen was not right and was not clear, and that's the part that was upsetting me.
Well, and there's parts where you just have to hit X once, and then there's parts where you have to hit X repeatedly. And I get that the icons and the sound that pops up when they pop up are different, but they look so similar.
I didn't see a difference.
I'm saying it happened to me multiple times in the game where I'm like, I thought I just had to press the button once, but you had to press it multiple times, and it's just not. There's not a big distinction between the two.
No, it's not.
Which seems like a big flaw.
How did you feel about the heartbeats? Because in Until Dawn, you just had to hold the controller steady, and I remember not even breathing. And then on my replays, I would just set the controller on the ground because I was like, oh, you can't. You're just sitting there. You're not breathing. And like some of the scenes are so long. The heartbeat I found interesting.
I like that mechanic a lot.
But then I failed it a lot.
Oh, really?
And then also, I'm not watching anything that you've spent so much time putting on the screen. I'm just watching the bottom bar and trying to hit my next thing.
There's a couple times where so it's this heartbeat mechanic, which is really the only new mechanic that they put in the game compared to the last few games they put out, where you see like these heartbeats pop up on the screen and you have to hit X on the exact same time that the heartbeats come up, and you're like trying to keep all silent or hide from a character. And I like that because it adds a new twist to the game, but I know what you're saying, because I think there was one time where you have to do it and there's even like subtitles going, I think.
The guy's like screaming in French, and I'm like, I can't do fast screaming slangy French. Like, I can do like classroom French, but I'm not going to read these subtitles
like,
right
if you're gonna do that, then don't do it where there's subtitles or where there's like it happens in the beginning when you're in the flashback of like actually in World War II, and the main captain goes all crazy and he's there with the gun, and it's like, I want to see his facial expressions and all this stuff you animated, but I can't because I'm just pressing the heartbeat button. Where it works is there's one section of the storyline, if you get it, where you're hiding in the bathroom from one of the pirates, and it works there because there's nothing really to look at. You just know that there's a guy in the bathroom. Like, it works perfectly in a situation like that, but not when there's a bunch of other stuff going on.
Another thing I actually really liked was the Oh Death song, and there's two different versions of it in this game, and it was I think there were two different versions in Until Dawn too, and it's a cool little brand thing to put in there to kind of have the same song in both games. And I like both of the versions that they did for this too. I thought they were really well done.
Right, and I'm guessing this is the first game of what they're calling the Dark Pictures anthology, or just a Dark anthology. Mm-hmm. And so there's another game coming out in 2020 that's going to be the second part of that. And I'm going to go ahead and guess they're going to use the same narrator that's in the game, probably the same song. Like, they're kind of building this whole brand around it, which is cool. Like, I like these types of games. Like, there's nothing else really like it, where it's just this interactive thing, and it's like, it's something you can really play with everybody, and there's so many different, I mean, you could play it 10 times and get a different ending if you really tried.
And we got the trailer for the next game too in this game.
Yeah, it's gonna be like some Witch in the Woods type thing, which looks really fun.
But yeah, I hadn't really considered that, but maybe there is something in here, and I read a lot of the different choices online. I think one of the choices you make is if you don't stop your girlfriend, she dies at the end from pressure sickness.
That makes sense.
And if you have her drink the beer.
Right.
But there's not really any, like, I'm thinking back to on my first playthrough of Until Dawn, I think Chris died because Ashley didn't open the door for me or something like that. Because of something you did earlier, then she wouldn't open the door when something was coming after you and you die.
Right.
You know, I can't think of anything like that in this game.
That's what I'm talking about when I said, like, the decisions you make, I never feel like it impacts the players at all. Like, in terms of like death, I feel like literally every time I saw someone die, it was because you guys didn't push the button correctly.
Well, and Until Dawn,
I don't like that.
They call it the butterfly effect when there was a big choice you made, and they call it something different in this game.
There's like the compass, but I'm like, what does it matter? Like, what?
It doesn't seem to matter as much, and I mean, it just would have been nice where, like in the very beginning of the game, where you're the army people on the ship, like if one of those choices even mattered, then later on with the teenagers, like that would have been cool.
Yeah.
But that doesn't. Nothing you do there matters at
why
all.
are
It
you
just
even
sets up the
playing
story.
them? That's the other thing. Like,
Yeah.
why was that even like a play and not just like a watch? I don't know. I feel like they put you into those characters, but there was like that had no impact on the
It just would have
story
been
at
cool
all.
if something you do there then mattered later on. Like just a little disappointing that it doesn't tie in more like that.
I think the only thing that did tie in is like if you chose your son or not, then you got like
just a different way that you died in the beginning. That was about it. And speaking of the beginning, I want to talk about the subtitles in this game.
Oh my
which
God.
are like just I don't know who approved this. The subtitles are so tiny, and then also every time it's in a different language, it'll say in like parentheses in Chinese and then translates it, but it does it for every single line, where it's like once you set up it's in Chinese, you don't have to keep telling me it's in Chinese. Just
Yeah, but you have to remember those subtitles are for people who maybe can't hear. So
sure.
So they don't have a separate subtitles for hearing impaired or regular subtitles.
Yeah.
But then what's the point of having subtitles if no one can read them? I've never seen a font this small.
Yeah, it's really
absolutely
tiny.
ridiculous. I had to like put my chair all the way up to the TV to read any of it.
It just seems really silly. That would be a really
And we have
easy
a big
thing to
TV
fix.
too.
Yeah, we do.
I don't understand. Also, another thing that Stacey pointed out right away, which I had a whole rant about in Until Dawn, is that the people who wrote this don't know what being cold is.
Like the first scene,
yeah.
like one of the first scenes I watched, because the first time I came in, I was like, I watching Sam play like halfway through, is this girl and she's like in freezing cold ocean water in bike shorts and a stomach showing shirt. I'm like, that's not what you.
Yes.
No, I mean
That's not what you.
They're wetsuit shorts, but they're like booty shorts, basically.
I don't care that they're wet shoes.
Yeah, it's like the
like
whole-
that's what you. That's not a wet. That's what you go surfing in like Hawaii where the water's warm.
And
like
the thing is, they're not even by the coast. They're like really far out, and it would just definitely be cold.
But they ran around like that in Until Dawn, which takes place in the snow. There were people with like
freezing,
midriffs,
yeah.
like and
Funny.
it makes it really hard to believe in the story where like you talk about like reacting and you talk about, you know, there's no reaction to the environment, and that's part of it. Like if you're in the water and they're not saying they're cold, or like they're out of the water and it's like the wind is blowing, like, and they're not reacting to it, those things make you believe or not believe.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's a buy-in factor.
And because I have to bring this up on every podcast, I'm going to compare it to Uncharted. In Uncharted 4, after you're like in the ocean, then you wash up on the shore. That's what it's called. And Nathan Drake's just like shivering and walking so slowly, and everything's like he's looking for supplies, and you can feel it. You can feel that kind of desperation. And another note I have about the environment in this game is it all takes place on the ocean, but I'm not getting the feeling that it's an ocean. It felt like a lake, because once you surface up, you can still see the dollar bills that Conrad threw there. They wouldn't just be floating around your boat. They would be gone. And then you have a whole conversation with two people in the water and then two people on the boat, and it's just still water. And this is the open ocean. And I have an acquaintance who does go out on the open ocean and do fishing, and he won't even let anybody jump overboard. He's like, you
Right.
think you're right next to the ship, 2 seconds later you're all the way out there and I'm trying to get to
it's
you.
like crazy currents going on.
Yeah, it's just like, and it didn't feel like the ocean. Which
Yeah,
is the whole
also,
point.
now that you say that, like, you're on this big boat, but you're never getting... Like, the boat would kind of constantly be moving a little bit, which you'd never get either.
Oh, I wouldn't want that. I would.
I
get
know, but
seasick.
there's really kind of no feel that you're, like, on this vessel. Which, talking about the camera movement, I have a love-hate relationship with in this game, because I think sometimes it's really cool. Like, there's parts where if I'm walking down the stairs and the camera, you know, your point of view is like from within the staircase, and it's kind of like there's something watching you, and it's kind of creeping. It's just like this hidden where they put the camera placement. Like that sometimes sets the mood, and it's really cool. And then other times, because it's not, you know, the camera doesn't really follow you. It's just here's where the camera is in this room, and it's just kind of this overview. And then sometimes it's so frustrating, like in the ballroom, where I couldn't.
Ugh.
I just kept getting stuck with tables just because you can't see where the character is walking, and sometimes it works and sometimes it just doesn't.
I was mostly frustrated trying to walk into doors and not seeing where I was going and walking so slowly too. No matter what the mood was, I was always walking slowly.
But so the cameras, it gets really weird at times.
Well, and I think that's supposed to make you feel trapped on the ship.
Yeah.
In these tiny corridors, it just didn't work for me because I'm trying to walk through a door, pick up an item, and I kept hitting X and nothing's happening because I'm like 1 centimeter too far over or something like that.
The other thing that always frustrates me with these games is if you never know, okay, if there's 2 doors, you never know, okay, which door moves the story forward and which door can I explore more stuff. And if you walk through the wrong door, then you missed out on this like whole other part of finding stuff. And you can't really go back because the game autosaves. And I know that always frustrates me.
I guess you'll just have to replay it.
And then the graphics for the most part are really good, but there's definitely weird, I don't know, with the motion capture, like when people are smiling,
it's terrifying.
It looks really strange for whatever reason. And that's another thing, it's all in the facial features. If someone's scared, then that's going to make me scared, but they nailed everything but the face. It seems like the facial features aren't always there. And then the characters aren't really reacting properly, and it just kind of ruins the mood. And the only times I'm really scared, there's just a couple cheap jump scares where I'm like, where it's just really loud music for a second and like something running across the screen. But otherwise, it's not really that scary at all, I thought.
I also wasn't into the main pirate having a physical deformation because he's already evil. And then it's just this trope in horror that's like, oh, if you have some kind of mental illness or you're physically disabled or something, you're bad. And I just there was no need for it.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, he's like this main pirate who's probably been a pirate his whole life, and he's seen some shit, man, and he's been in some fights. So he's just this rough-looking guy.
It's just a trope in horror movies that I just don't like. And also, what I thought was weird, there was he supposed to be Chinese? One of the pirates is Asian.
Yeah.
And he has an accent.
Yeah.
But then when he's speaking in French, he just speaks like a normal French person. Wouldn't he have like a Chinese accent when he was speaking in French?
Yeah, I don't know.
I thought that was strange. Maybe different people voice the different.
Maybe. That's true. That or he's like actually a French guy that was just doing... He's like an Asian French guy that wasn't just doing an Asian accent. I don't know. The other thing that's never explained is this ghost ship has been sitting there in the ocean water for like 70 years.
Yeah, anchored down.
Somehow the lights on this ship, like there's still power. Did you notice this?
Yeah.
It's never explained. No one's weirded out by this. Like where is the power coming from?
And also, how strong is this bioweapon that it's still in the entire ship, not even just in this one room where it's stored. It's like affecting everybody on the ship constantly.
Like the power still works in parts of the ship, and then you go and turn the generator on at one part of the game. I'm like, well, the generator would be running on some sort of fuel, and like that fuel would not be good 70 years. Like fuel has an expiration date. Like, it would not be working 70 years later. I thought it was a little strange.
Also, in my first playthrough, I got everybody killed at the end because the military came down in a helicopter, and I told them the name of the ship, and then they're like, "This is a state secret. We have to kill everybody on it." And they gunned me down. And again, this boat has been anchored down in the same spot forever, and like the military's only just found it.
Well, it doesn't make sense because in the other ending, when you escape and then the military comes after you escape, they seem to have no idea what the ship is. In that ending, they're like, what is this place?
That's because I didn't tell them the name. I didn't find out the name in that playthrough.
Right, but once they know the coordinates of where to go and they figure out, oh, this is this crazy classified thing.
They find out afterwards and then you're in prison forever because they take you and then I think the last scenes are
I thought you said you got shot.
No, if you don't tell them the name of the ship, they will take you with them on the helicopter.
Oh, okay.
And then I think you're in I didn't get that ending.
It's just so strange. I'm like, okay, so if this is this classified thing, wouldn't they just go in there with the fucking gas mask and take the poison out? No, I don't.
Yeah, just leave some ship there
Very
for someone
strange.
to find.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, and another note I had about that just reminded me, because in that ending I got Conrad to come with the Coast Guard. He's like manning the gun.
That was the best.
The Coast Guard's coming and Conrad's just at the front of the ship where this machine gun is, and he's just standing there like, I'm coming. Like George Washington on, what's it called?
I don't know
what's the boat called? Oh, come on. Anyway, he's standing there like George Washington, that famous painting. Just like, ah.
But I did that one after I found out that that's what happened online, because I never went for Conrad getting away in the boat. Because again, this is not how the ocean works. Yeah. You're in a little like rowboat, like motorboat out in the middle of the ocean. This dude is gonna like go find help when it's overcast, and I don't trust this guy to even know what stars are. Mm-hmm. Nothing is established that he's like some astrology expert or anything, and like he's just like going out into open waters, and he's like, I found the Coast Guard.
He's a man of many talents. Yeah, I don't. What's that main actor's name that they got? I gotta look this up. Hold on.
Okay, well, while you're talking about that, here's another point I want to bring up really fast. So the Manchurian gold affects everybody on the ship, right? Everybody starts seeing things. But the two captors, that one got knocked out and the other one got put in a cell, somehow do not get impacted by this stuff that's spraying everywhere, right? Even the doctor is affected in the room. Mm-hmm. Why are these soldiers not that makes no sense. Like non-infected at all by this? Like the one that is like just stuck in a cell right around the corner, there's a bunch of people who have killed, and he's just still okay and nothing's wrong with him.
Yeah, that's true.
I just think that's weird. It doesn't really make any sense.
Back in the World War II days, like it affected the entire ship basically overnight.
Yeah.
And then
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's like inconsistent.
But like
how the
neither of
works.
them were affected. And then when the guy woke up, it was like even the doctor was affected. So he should have already been like losing it a little bit. Yeah,
or that the teenagers should have just started losing it way sooner too. No,
yeah.
I don't. Mm-hmm. Maybe the poison's wearing off.
No.
It also seemed that a lot of times there were dialogues that were put in, but then something was changed in the back end so that the environments didn't reflect what the voice actors were saying. I noticed that a couple of times.
Oh, like what?
Like where the reactions or something they were saying didn't match what was actually going on, or it was inappropriate, or like when they were like, oh, why is this whole ship abandoned? And then you keep finding bodies, but then nobody says, oh, there are the bodies. And then later on there was another section when they're like, we still haven't found where all the people went. And it's like, yeah, you did. They were all these corpses. Like something didn't add up there. Also, the line that the boyfriend has when he's like looking through. Stacey was upset about this. Everybody was looking through the girlfriend's like suitcase.
Yeah, why? Why was they didn't look through anybody else's suitcase, anybody else's room, but for some reason the girl, she kept getting her stuff looked through. I'm like, that's really invasive. Like, why is that okay?
But his line was, my girlfriend left nothing at home, but then the suitcase is like 2 underpants in there and that's it. It's like a half-packed suitcase. And I'm like, damn, son, like he can't even have like.
Well, can't even have also, a book. There was a bunch of stuff like that, like when you're looking through the suitcase and there's just no
Why am I looking at this book? Why do I care?
There's no comment about the book. There's like one little comment about the perfume in there. Like there was a lot of stuff like that where you're picking up stuff to pick it up, and there's nothing. It doesn't add to the story. It doesn't add to the character. Just nothing there. I don't. Really strange. Like, why am I able to pick this book up? I think you can do it with like 2 or 3 different characters and not one of them says anything about it. Like, what's the point?
It doesn't like spark any dialogue about the book or anything.
It's very strange.
And then also one of the conflicts they had was that guy suspects Felice that she's in it with the pirates. And then we all thought, oh, is somebody in with the pirates? Right. And there's like a overarching twist coming.
Right.
But then again, it seemed like something that was worked out and only that part made it in.
Yeah.
So then you had no idea why he would suddenly suspect her of being in with the pirates. Because he just says, they travel in the same waters, and that makes her a pirate too. And I'm like, okay, so everybody who's out in the ocean is now a criminal? Like, it's just some of those things where I'm like, what? The dialogue isn't even telling me any.
There's another thing where the environment doesn't sync up now that you talk about it, where Conrad in the beginning says something about like cans. Oh, it's nothing a beer can fix. Take this.
And then it's a bottle
of beer.
Yeah.
Like, okay. Yeah, it just seems yeah, it just seems unfinished, which is too bad. Because even though the game is flawed, yeah, like we still played it 3 times and it was fun. But
it wasn't as fun as I had playing Until Dawn.
Oh, like not even close.
It's just too slow.
And it makes me... I don't know, like I read the reviews on the game before I bought it, and it was mixed reviews, but I'm just like, screw it. Like, I loved Until Dawn, so I'm going to give this game a shot anyway. And then it was like, you're kind of let down. And like, I want to play the next game that they bring out.
We will.
And we probably will, but it definitely makes you... It doesn't feel good when you, hey, I'm going to spend $15-20 on this game, and it's just like a half-assed product. And that happens a lot in video games now, where it's just unfinished products because of just timeline pressure get released, and then there's always patches afterwards. But I just don't know how that became like an okay thing to do. Like, I wouldn't,
the internet.
I wouldn't go to the movie theater and go see a movie, and they're like, oh, well, there's a couple things unfinished, but you come see it in like 2 weeks. We're gonna we just reshot some scenes. Like, and video games are not. It starts at $60, and you buy these special edition of games and go into hundreds of dollars. But it'll, like Red Dead Redemption 2. Like, there was special edition games where you could buy those for like over $100. But like, those games are always, and they'll sit, like the video game companies are upfront with it now, where it's just like, yeah, this game's like unfinished, and we're gonna be patching it up as we go. I'm just like, how is that okay? I don't understand that. Like, you're spending. Video games are not cheap. A new video game's like $60. It's like, should be a finished product at this point.
Yeah. I did really like the premonition pictures of all the really cool paintings of the different ships. And you could look at them because the totem poles in Until Dawn, they were so cute. I think there was one that has like a badger that has like a grin. And I don't know, you just pick them up and... They're just these really cool little carvings, and I thought the ship pictures were a perfect callback to that, while also doing its own thing in this game.
I always think those are strange, because half of them I don't find helpful at all. Like, when you look at the pictures, and it then shows you a little glimpse in the future, and half the time you're just like, and you rewatch it, and I'm just like, I have no idea what that means.
Yeah.
There was like one where I could lip read the character where she says stop. So I'm like, when that scene came up, I'm like, oh, okay, you should tell him to stop. But all the other ones, I'm just like, I don't know what this is.
In that scene where you like, boyfriend is drowning copy of himself. I tried to Google that online, and all I found were other people being completely confused about who was who and who was underwater and what was a illusion and what was real. And it's just another one of those weird cuts, and then you run away from somebody else, and then you're like,
not explained,
what is happening?
Yeah, it's too bad. I mean, I would give this game like a 6 out of 10 probably. Which is still high. It's really just rough around the edges. Like the frame rate is choppy sometimes, and I've already talked about the random, just constant load screens you get.
Also, why couldn't I turn up the vibration? I do not like playing with vibration on a controller. I've never come across a game where that was mandatory and you couldn't turn it off. Yeah. I find that very strange.
It just seems like so Sean Ashmore is the main guy. He was like Iceman and X-Men. He's been a ton of stuff. It's just like maybe not pay him $100,000 to be in this video game and like use that money elsewhere. I have no idea how much he got paid, but I mean, he's a pretty prominent actor. I wouldn't imagine he would be cheap to get. I also just don't get what's the point of hiring semi-famous people to be in your. I just, as long as the motion capture's
Why
there
is that
and
a trend now?
like, it's just.
Yeah.
I get it, like it can add to the game sometimes, but a game like this where you just have these stereotype flat characters, like what's the point of hiring a good actor? Like just have these characters in the game. Like I don't care that it's like Sean Ashmore on my animated Sean Ashmore on the screen there. It just seems kind of weird.
Because then I'm also wondering, the voice actors that we know and we are fans of and who've been doing this for decades and who are not getting the kind of care and payment that they deserve.
Right.
These big time actors, they're not going to go through all that. They're probably getting proper breaks and voice care.
Right.
And, are you now paying money just for certain people to get that kind of treatment instead of taking care of everybody?
Yeah.
The guy who has to do like the soldier death screams in the booth for 5 hours, like... I don't know. That's just something I think about.
Yeah. I wonder how much you got paid for that.
Well, I mean, there's even more prominent people now in these video games. All these, Mads Mikkelsen was like in some upcoming video game.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, they lucked out with Until Dawn because they had Rami Malek in
when
there.
he wasn't famous.
When nobody knew who Rami Malek was. Like he wins an Oscar like 2 years later. And Rami Malek is amazing in that video game. Like he's so creepy and so good. He's got his big old eyes and like the acting in that game is just so spot on.
Yeah, and that with there's a story before where 2 other characters die, and then you're kind of reckoning with that throughout the rest of Until Dawn, which takes place a year later.
Mm-hmm.
And like Stacey said, I didn't feel any of that mystery that I wanted to figure out with these 2 soldiers in the beginning. And then,
they were just like, they were there to like show you the ship and that was it. Like they didn't come back up ever. That's what I meant by like, they play no significance. Like they don't play into the story at all. Like I don't know. There's just there's no care about the relationships in the thing at all. Like, I don't care if the main girl gets with Conrad because Conrad's an ass. Like, I don't care if the couple breaks up or if they get engaged. Like, I don't care about any of that. And it has a lot to do with, like, their lack of reaction to anything.
Mm-hmm.
The dialogue is weird right from the beginning, too, though, where one of the soldiers borrows a couple quarters from the other, and then literally 10 minutes later, the other soldier's like, "Where's my quarters, bro?" Like he wants to be paid back right then and there.
And that started the fight.
It's like really just strange. Like, well, he borrowed quarters from you like 5 minutes ago, so he obviously doesn't have any on him right this second. And I get quarters were more valuable in 1935 or 45. I guess it's right after World War II, I think, like 1947. Like, why is this guy freaking out about like 2 quarters at 2 a.m?
Well, also, like, what was that whole scene with the Asian like storyteller? Like, I didn't get
think
any.
It matters. No.
What was the point of it? Like, at first, I thought maybe it was going to tie in, like they like.
Yeah, like what if those like people in that little Chinese market somehow got tied into whatever this poison is?
Yeah,
that's
something like to build it, but there was just no. There's no like fluency in the story. It was just like. This is this, and then this happens, and then this happens, and you're like, but what happened? Yeah. Why did that happen? Like, what was the purpose? I don't know.
I was like, one of the reviews was complaining that, there's these racist Asian archetypes in the beginning of the game, and I was like, I mean, to me, it just feels like this is obviously where a lot of U.S. Army traffic comes through, so it's just these people dressing up for like, to make their tourist money off of these people.
I didn't. Yeah. I just thought it was weird that these soldiers obviously understood the language, but then wouldn't speak
they're like
it?
Fluent in Chinese somehow. I forgot about that. Just like, wait, these guys are just passing through. They're like these dumbass American. Like, I get if they would maybe understand a couple Chinese words, but they seem to be fluent in Chinese.
What was the point of the whole like need to like fight the statue? Like, you remember the fighting thing in the beginning?
Was just a tutorial to show you how to
have it work. Everything works. Okay.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just some strange choices in this game.
Oh man, I wish it was better. I'm sorry we're kind of hating on it, but I hope the next one's gonna be fantastic.
We hate on it, but I played it like almost 3 times, so it's like there's something there. I know, maybe once, it's worth like $10. I don't know if I'd spend 15 on it again. Maybe like wait till it goes on sale or something. It's fun enough to like spend 2-3 hours with, but it
has potential. I did really like the younger brother. He was probably one of the characters I actually cared about, who was cool and funny. Yeah,
it's just at the end of the day, I think it just comes down. I mean, all the other complaints I can ignore if it's just maybe I'll give it a 6 out of 10 now. I would probably give it like a 7 or 8 out of 10 if just the characters would react properly. Like, that was just such a huge part for me, where just, my brother died, I don't give a crap. There's just like dead bodies everywhere. Like, can't see that, bro. Never mind that the ship would just smell horrendously with all these dead bodies on it.
Yeah.
And some of the bodies aren't skeletons yet. Like, I don't know. Wouldn't 70 years on ocean water, wouldn't your body kind of, with all these rats there, wouldn't it just be all skeletons?
Rats eating all the,
I feel like it would just, some of the bodies weren't like completely broken down yet. I thought that was strange, but I don't know. I don't know how that would work. Maybe because they're inside, they're like sheltered more from that, your body biodegrading.
Yeah. Also, like in the beginning, then the scenes changed. So like you see some of the rooms that are in the first show, but they're not like, you don't see the same dead bodies.
Right. The rats dragged it away.
Yeah, I don't think the rats can move bones. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't know.
Oh, shucks.
All right.
Well, that was Man of Medan.
Madonna.
Yeah, like a maiden voyage. You've never heard that? I just thought it was Man of Medan.
But that's... Oh, I thought that was spelled like maiden.
Oh, I don't know.
Like M-A-I-D. And...
We'll never know.
Well, it's based on it was supposed to be based on a real ship.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was based on a real ship that in the 40s was like a ghost ship. Because like everybody like died miraculously and like whatever.
Really?
Yeah.
That sounds more interesting than the game.
Yeah, I think they played
now.
on that, but they didn't like bring it up again later.
Huh. Okay. I'm going to look this up now. Anyways, thanks for listening, guys. And just to remind you, we have a brand new website, modernlifepodcast.com. Go and check that out.
You can email us, modernlifepod@gmail.com.
Or hit us up on Instagram and Twitter, @modernlifepod. Yeah, we'll just catch you in the next few weeks. I don't know what we're going to talk about yet. I'm going to set up an interview with one of my friends. He's got a really cool...
Do it, bro.
I'm going to do it. I have to do it on like a weekend
What are you
day.
waiting for?
He's got this really cool, like...
Yesterday you said tomorrow. Do it.
Easy, Shia. And I know Tabby's trying to collaborate more with other podcasts too. If you didn't, our last episode, we collab. Who was she? What podcast?
From the Red Light Library podcast. And it's a lot of fun.
They talk about Pride and Prejudice. So we're trying to do some more stuff like that and just kind of keep it more interesting. So we're going to have some new content up soon. But we'll catch you guys soon. Thanks for listening.
Bye.